Hi everyone, it's James here from Pro Tools Expert, and I've got myself a copy of Session Horns Pro by E Instruments. So let's get this straight right from the off. At no point am I suggesting that this replaces a real brass section. I work with real brass players far too often to be brave enough to say that. There is something you get from having four guys or girls in a room playing simultaneously. They glue, they gel, they make stuff up. It's fantastic. However, if your gig or your performance or your budget in your studio can't run to a real brass section, this thing comes pretty damn close. So let's have a look round and have a listen, more importantly, and see what we've got. So first and foremost, Session Horns Pro lives inside the contact player instrument, and we can, if we want to, load the solo instruments up as patches. But to be fair, there are plenty of other playback libraries that do this, and it's very good within Session Horns Pro, but it's not its party piece. So what I've done is I've loaded them up in performance mode, for which we get 4 slots of instruments. So in this case, I've got trombone and baritone, tenor, and 2 trumpets. Both trumpets here acting as separate parts, which is really quite nice. Loads of different presets to play with. I can add tuba in there if I want to, so tuba, trombone, and 2 trumpets. Baritone, tenor, and 2 trumpets. Again, slightly different, slight variations. Baritone, trombone, tenor, and 2 trumpets. Now, if I want to, I can change the instruments in each slot. So let's this time have baritone. So now we've effectively got 6 instruments playing. But what it's worth knowing is that these instruments, when they're doubled up like this, will share the same notes. They won't play any different harmonies or anything like that. However, let's go back to the Session Horns preset. And let's hear this thing. Let's hear how it sounds. So we're in basic polyphonic mode. So let's just play some. So you can see down here in my articulations section, I'm controlling these 2 different articulations by the MIDI velocity. So anything below a MIDI velocity of 116 will give me a vibrato tone. Anything above 116 will give me a forte piano crescendo. So this sound. Which is quite cool, and I can change that to different things if I want to. I can change it to a rip. Kind of cool. Staccatissimo. Let's go back to where we were with the 2-beat. Now the other controls I've got can be found down here in the controls section, and I can use my pitch wheel to control between doits and falls. Which again can sound really, really cool. It's just another technique that brass players do that's not often sampled. If I hit the sound button, this is where I actually now can get in and really get quite down and dirty with how I want these instruments to sound. I've got a basic compressor, EQ, tape saturation, twang, which is kind of a really sort of top-endy EQ, low-pass filter, and I've got a certain amount of control for the individual instruments, as well as global sends for the effects and master effect. Now this voicing assignment up here is very useful to actually make your brass parts sound realistic. Now in polyphonic mode it's playing all the parts all the time. If I go into Smart Voice Split, now what it's doing is it's assigning the notes appropriately on the chords I play. So for example, if I play a C major chord, it's not going to make every single instrument play each part of that chord. It's going to assign it like you would a real section. So And if I mess around with that chord, you'll hear how things move. So again, just by playing chords using Session Horns Pro, you can get really clever with how your brass sounds, and it sounds much more natural than just bashing out a brass pad. This is a really good sounding, really effective sounding instrument. Legato, again, allows me to kind of noodle, if you like, on the instruments as a section. This time, though, the parts are monophonic, so I love the fact that you can hear the key work and the valves going up and down when I do things like that. Really cool, really nice way to get really tight unison playing, especially up top. Now, chord and legato is exactly that. It's a kind of combination of the two. So if I play long flowing lines, all the parts play together, and if I hit chords, then of course it plays intelligently as a chord. There's also a really cool thing called smart chord. Now, maybe you're not all that great at orchestration or all that great at arrangement and working out what harmony is going to work. This thing allows you to create some really interesting chords by terminology. So, for example, we're in the key of C and I'm in C major. If I just hold down the C key, maybe I want something a little warmer. A little more colour. Crunchy. Cinematic. Maybe some tension. If I play the type of chord that I want and then the root position of the chord, I can now string together some far more interesting chord progressions using some really interesting inversions that brass players would just know and would just work out. So let's put something together. Some of those are really lovely. So let's turn a smart chord off because I have a fairly strong understanding of chord structure. And let's go into the Animator. Now this is where things get, well, animated. You can see in here I've got some options. I've got my tempo options and I'm going to leave everything 1 to 1. Obviously ×2 means it all plays back double speed and half means it all plays back half speed. In here, this is like my phrase library. So I've got my different horn setups and different horn layouts. Different horn sections, and I've got more musical styles. I'll stick with pop just for the moment, and let's play some of these back. Now if I hit a chord, now, don't be mistaken into thinking this G1 down here is anything to do with the key we're in. This isn't smart chord mode. This is purely showing me which key switch I've selected. So if I flick through these, Change the style. Now at the moment they're all playing harmony. If I want to play unison. Some of these are really, really very cool. So let's change the type again. So let's go for something a bit more ska reggae. Loving that. Let's change again. For me, the pop sounds just sound a bit brighter, a bit nicer, but maybe that's just because that's the style of music that I'm used to working in with brass at the moment. I think this thing sounds great. It's got some real potential. It takes a little while to get used to some of its little facets of the fact that you have to hit the chord type before you actually hit the chord root note in smart chord. Takes a little bit getting used to. But to be fair, if you're using the Animator, you can preset everything in MIDI anyway. What I'll do now is I'll show you this track that I've been working on. And here I've pre-recorded the brass parts, and you can see in here I've hit the key switches. I've actually recorded the key switches. So when we play this back, you should get a vague idea of how you can put these things together and how they can sound quite cool. It's a funk track, so I'm on pop horns, heavy horns in fact. So let's play that back and see what you guys think of this. So you can hear in context the brass blends really nicely with other real instruments. I think this thing sounds fantastic. It's not going to replace a real brass section, but not everyone has the luxury that I have on a regular basis of working with a real brass section. Once again, E-Instruments, the Animator scores very highly with me, very much like the lines of the Session Keys Y and S instruments I reviewed a couple of months ago. I like this thing a lot. Some would say it's a little dry, and yes, you can tweak things in various ways. I would always add my reverb from a dedicated reverb module generally. But hey, if you need to get up and running and you don't have the extra horsepower for extra reverbs and extra plugins, the effects and the presets and everything in here are really, really good and will get you up and running very, very quickly. Hope you enjoyed that. I've been James, and I'll see you again soon for another review.